Asante sana for joining me on this streaming. We had intended to stream across LinkedIn and YouTube, but because of technical difficulties, we're only streaming on YouTube. We are supposed to talk about funding startups in Africa and how the founders can be able to develop trust sufficiently to be able to enable local people with capital to invest in them. First, we have to understand that the person with the idea and the person with the capacity to execute the idea and the person who has the capital to execute the idea may be different people. And these three people must be able to trust each other, that the person with the idea will be able to articulate it very well to the person who is going to execute it, and that also the two will be able to discuss and talk to the person with the money so that they can be able to put all those three together and their time to make sure that the startup works. The challenge we have in Africa is not a challenge of resources. There's enough resources in Africa to be able to fund startups. Because there's enough resources to fund banks, to do other businesses. The thing that is not there is the trust. I think it cuts both ways. The people with money don't trust the people with ideas or respect them, and the people with ideas do not trust the people with money, and the people who can execute it, the ideas cannot, or you find somebody with the idea thinks that they can execute it when they will give the idea to somebody else and execute it better. So the ability to join these three and them work with respect and trust together. I think that the people who come from outside Africa have an advantage in the sense that there is an ingrained something internalized among the African startup ecosystem, that the people who are coming from outside the continent know what they're doing and they can be trusted. So they are trusted with project write-ups. Basically, the ideas are given to them for free. But if a local person asks for a project proposal, a red flag goes up that you want to take my idea. But most people forget that every time they apply for a grant or for funding, they have to give this idea out. They have to explain to the person who is funding them or who is going to help them execute the idea what is being executed, what is the value proposition that they are going to get. So the startups, the founders in Africa actually give these ideas away everywhere, but they don't trust the local people. Also, the local people who have the money don't seem to think that the person with the idea is contributing value. They want to take the idea and run with it. Okay? They want to take the idea and give somebody else to execute who doesn't understand how this thing works. So first of all, to be able to make sure that startups are funded in Africa, all people involved must understand how to set up an organization or an entity that will take care of the interest of each. So we have the person with the idea, the founder, we have the person who can execute it, we have the person with the money, and we have the people or the ecosystem putting it all together. So you cannot have an idea and think that you will have 100% of the organization that is going to execute it. You cannot have money and think that you are going to have 100% of what's going. You cannot be the executing person and think that you are going to have 100% of what's. It doesn't happen when the VCs are coming from outside Africa, but when the VCs are people you grew up with, you think that they shouldn't have it. So I think to be able to find a way to unlock the resources that are available in Africa, to fund startups that will make sure innovation runs, is to be able to first develop the trust. Secondly, to change that idea that money should only be put in physical things. Like we have a lot of credit unions who give almost 10 times the amount of the savings that the person has to go and buy land. Land which will never be an asset per se, because an asset is something you buy that has a cash stream attached. But most finance organizations in Africa value the asset. They they put the value in it and see if this is worth it, I'm going to give you the money. They don't value the cash stream that is going to come out of there. And startups are funded by projected cash streams. So we have to be able to focus the resources that we have in Africa now to solve the problems we have now. A long time ago, like 70 years ago, 100 years ago, 80 years ago, purchasing land from the people who held it was a big issue. Right now, purchasing land is not an issue. If you look at the biggest companies in the world, the land is a very little proportion of their asset holding. That means that other things, knowledge, systems, make a lot, contribute to the value of business and value of companies. So to be able to unlock the finance that is in Africa already, if you look at the savings and credit unions, if you look at the banks, there's a lot of money there. But they are tied to physical things, a building, land, something you can touch. If you tell them that I'm going to build a website that we're going to put our customers and suppliers together, they cannot internalize that. They cannot internalize their money being used to build a website which will connect customers and get money. And since they are not thinking about the cash flow, they are thinking about, can I sell this? Should this thing go south? And if you think about the big companies that we have now, like Airbnb, they don't own anything physical. They just provide that interface between the people who have empty houses and the people who need to use them at a specific time. If you look at Uber, they do not have any land, they don't have vehicles other than the such ones. They have that interface that connects the person who wants a ride now and the driver who wants the car right now. So they do not have something physical to sell should this thing go south, but they have the cash flow coming out of the transactions that they sell and put it out there. So if you look at M-Pesa, there is no M-Pesa building, but there is the process or the processing of money between individuals or between individuals and companies that generate an income. Is the cash flow that matters. So to be able to educate our people that the business ecosystem has changed, and that when you have to fund something, it doesn't have to be physical, it can be virtual. That will be the start of unlocking the money that's available in Africa to fund startups and innovation, and to develop a culture of integrity, of doing the right thing even if nobody's looking, and also respecting the intellectual property of others, respecting the money and the funds of others, and respecting the ability, the capability of other people. If you have an idea and you can't execute it, it's worthless. If you can execute an idea but there's no idea, you are worthless. If you have cash but you cannot put it in a place where it can generate money, it's worthless. But if these two are put together, in an environment that enables people to trust that everyone will do their part and will respect the law, we'll find the money is open for funding startups. This is the discussion I wanted to have today. We'll make sure that in future, like next week, we have this set up in advance so that we can be able to stream it both on LinkedIn and on YouTube. But we're going to post this one. So if you have any ideas as to how we can unlock the money that's available, like the money that is in credit unions, money that is in people's bank accounts, money that is banked overseas, how can we make sure that the people who have this money can be able to trust the people who have ideas and the people who can execute the ideas, so that we develop the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem in Africa, and make sure that innovation proceeds at a faster pace and does not depend on people who are coming, who are not invested and who do not understand the problems, who bring problems from outside and try to impose them on the Africans, when Africans themselves know what problems they have and how they want to solve them. But they have the money has to go to the bank, or maybe a foreign bank, and then they're looking at this side. Everybody is unsure of themselves. And a society or community that does not exchange value among and between themselves will never develop wealth. That's true. Money must stand several times in a community, in a country, before it leaves. And money turning several times means you're selling to your brother, your sister, your mom, your father, like that, selling things. Not expecting that if my brother has something, I have to get it as a transfer payment. But if somebody else has it, then I have to pay. That means that every time money comes into the community, it leaves. But everything that is done in the community is not valued as transfer payments. That way, wealth cannot be generated and wealth cannot be retained in the community, in the family, in the community, in the country. You must exchange value amongst yourselves, and you must have faith, you must have trust, you must develop trust that when somebody says they are going to do something, they are going to do it. They have to have that integrity of being able to do the right thing even if somebody is not looking. Because you cannot police people. The reason why there is no many people trying to fund startups is because they don't trust that the startups will keep their side of the bargain. And if they then have to be able to set up companies where the founder has their share, the executive management has their share, and the funding agencies, funding people have their shares, and that they are not trading off books. We have had situations whereby a company is set up, everybody's got their shares, but the executive managers now starts trading off book, such that the company doesn't seem to be making money, but the executive managers seem to be doing very well. In that case, we'll have a long way to go because if one person does it and frightens everybody from it, then the ecosystem is killed. So, believe me when I tell you, there's enough money, there's enough resources in Africa. The only thing we have to do is work on ourselves to trust each other, to make sure that we do the right things even when nobody's looking, and to try to respect the intellectual property of people, to respect the capability of people, and respect the funding resources of others, so that when all these three are put together in a system of trust and integrity, we can be able to push our innovation forward. Asante sana, we will be able to continue this discussion next week.